GOAT, you can be the greatest of all time. That gets stuck in anyone else's head, that useless, weird song. Like all that. You never stop this, but I can never do me. That as well. Just does anyone actually want this tonight? Does anyone? I don't really know what to say. How many years has it been of similar performances, different managers, but seemingly arriving at this point in a season where we all sort of know unanimously that it's done. Know what I mean? I mean, as in like the season is done. Whether that means Frank's tenure is done or not, I don't know. I don't know what to think about that. What do I think about that? I've sort of been saying for the past few weeks, and I try to I try to sort of project on here something that is closer to a more rational side of myself. Obviously, during matches and stuff, like I'm sure we all do, you shoot off messages to your mates like, get rid of this player, get rid of Thomas Frank now, or other manager now, right? Now coming in, I'm like, just have a breather and just try at least project a better side of yourself out there. And so for the past sort of few weeks, games anyway, I've been saying, look, I think we need to step away from that emotional side of seeing Spurs lose and blah, 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 and realise that he hasn't got Maddison, Kulusevski, all this type of thing. And I do still think there's something in that, right? I do think we should be saving the referenda until he's got the best available squads to him, to his disposal. There you go. However, and I think I can say this, right? I think I can say this, and because I feel like this is an opinion that most people share. When you look at games like tonight, right, and you look at games, not so much like the PSG one, but you look at other games that we've had throughout the season, at least. But let's just focus on today. You look at games like today, with everything that's gone on and all the context around it, and the fact we needed not only a result today, but we needed a performance, right? You look at today and you think, it ain't happening, is it? Like, what were we supposed to take from that game? What was it to cling on to again? Like, we've gone away to PSG. And the funny thing is, we've gone away to PSG with probably a sense that we've got nothing to lose, that it's a free hit. And whether that's come from Frank or whether that's come from the players, I feel like that kind of explains why we played so well, really. I mean, we still conceded five goals. 5 goals we conceded. I mean, for a guy, to be fair, right, for a guy that I blithered on about, who's going to raise our floor, at least he'll make us a bit more solid. We ain't half conceding a few goals now, are we? And he's got some good players at his disposal, to be fair. Why can't I just talk about Spurs being fun? Would I have to come into these like hotbed discussions all the time? So everything I say on here is going to like rile somebody. You're a clueless sis. To be honest, I don't really care. I wouldn't be, like being honest, I wouldn't be doing this type of thing if I really cared about people that don't like me. You're not do you know what I mean? Not to be you're hard and stuff, but we're all just wired differently, aren't we? And I don't mind doing this type of thing. I don't mind being mugged off every now and again. I mug myself off. It's quite funny, isn't it? I enjoy doing it. Some of you enjoy listening to me blithering on and the way I process this sort of thing. And that's it. That's why I enjoy it. A lot of people always say, thanks to the therapy and all that type of stuff. It's just as much for me. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy trying to rationalize the way I feel about this football club that I just find so consistently hard to quantify. We have moments like the Europa League or moments like Ajax where we hit these highs and you're like, I love this football club and this is what it's all about. These are the moments. You know, this is all these miserable years. This is what it's all built up to. But no one ever reminds you in those moments of the actual miserable years when they're just a concept. You know, the miserable. Oh yeah, all those dark days of Tottenham Hotspur. It's not fun when you're actually back in those bits, is it? You know, when I'm sat here on this pod, as I've done in the past, oh, you know, it must actually not be that fun being a Chelsea or a Man City fan because, you know, what does their success mean? It's probably more fun than this, isn't it? It's probably a lot more fun than this. Well, how are we supposed to make sense of this? A lot of this is on Thomas Frank. It is. It's not entirely on Thomas Frank. I'm not here to like make excuses for him, but it's not entirely on Thomas Frank. I want to read it out. I want to read it verbatim because I'm always on here saying I got a good tweet from someone and they said something like this and I can't remember who it was from. Berry Muses on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, said, "This is Daniel Levy's legacy. His ignoring of the sporting side of the club should never be forgotten. He did an interview saying he would be seen in a good light when he left, but we need to make sure this is never, ever the case, as what we see on the pitch is absolute negligence." And that's it. To a degree, it feels like that is coming to a head a bit. Let's be honest, the approach to every single transfer window for a good few years, which was, doesn't really matter, we got Kane and Son. But maybe you want to try and win something with Kane and Son. No, it doesn't matter because they're really good. You know, that's kind of where we were at for a long time with ENIC, with Daniel Levy. I mean, ENIC is still here. This is still ENIC, the Lewis family. It's still ENIC. They're still the same people in charge. Daniel Levy's boss. That when they really wanted to, they could get rid of him. They sacked him. They got rid of him. And now they're pretending that they're the saviors. They're the ones that are going to look. Something drastic needs to happen, really, because. And look, people do say this stuff is dramatic and don't be so silly, blah 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 blah. You got this big stadium now, but that's part of it. It was half empty tonight. I'm not digging anyone. I'm not doing the whole 8 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday night, freezing cold, £80 tickets to watch that. You know, I know people say, that's not how it works. That's not how fandom works. Well, you know, you can't quantify fandom with these old school notions in this prism of, yeah, all right, I'll get a bit pinko in this ultra late stage capitalism that we find ourselves in now. The state of affairs of everything, how expensive football tickets are now in comparison to just living, you know? Like, it's madness. It's mad. It's mad, and it still gets tied up in, well, real fans would go and do this and all. No, it's nonsense. It's nonsense. You can't be expecting people to pay £100 a game to go and watch a team that isn't very good. Like, what are we doing here? You know, like, this is a team that was really good for a time, and the ownership coasted on that, and since made little to no effort to make sure that the team stayed up in that place, but built everything around the club as if it was a club that was, or if it was a team that was going to stay in that sort of strata of football forever. Just indefinitely, because what? Because we did it for a while. So that's just where we are now. No, it's constant work. That's what it takes. It takes constant work to stay in that position. It's no good building this sort of a stadium and charging people as much as you do and expecting the stadium to fill up all the time. It's just pure neglect. It's pure neglect. That's where we're at now. That's what the team is at. And the reason why, you know, people say, oh, don't be so dramatic, don't be this, don't be that. I think you can be, because this team could get into something of a death spiral. We diced with death. Look, I'll be honest. I don't buy the whole like we threw the league because we wanted to win the Europa League. It's a nonsense excuse. I don't buy it for a second, right? We were awful last season, and that was a combination of who was in charge, the cards that had been dealt to him, the injuries and such, right? It wasn't all on him. And also the squad and the way that it had been neglected for years, the way the sporting operation of the football club had been neglected for a long, long time. Antonio Conte flounced out because he knew what the ownership was about. He didn't want to have anything to do with it anymore, did he? And we're still here. What's great was sack Thomas Frank and what? Bring in Iraola? Loads of people want Iraola. What's he going to do? Is he going to come in and suddenly make Spurs better? Or are we going to get, to the end of the season and say, let's get rid of him in summer? I honestly couldn't tell you right now. I mean, it remains to be seen. It remains to be seen what the Lewis family do in January. Some people have said, oh, well, you can't really say that anymore because if they back Frank in January, that means Frank has to stay. And I don't really buy that. If you're building an actually sort of functioning football club now, you shouldn't be buying players that are just hyper-focused on one manager. Like they sort of said before, and like we've said previously on podcasts and all this type of stuff, there should be a system built in place at a football club that means the manager is a part of that system. The system doesn't come from the manager per se. Are Spurs organised? Are the people at Spurs organised enough to do that type of thing? Who's in charge of that? Vinay Venkatesan? Don't know. I don't know. I really don't know what happens if we sack Thomas Frank, because I feel, gut feeling at this moment, post this game, gut feeling is it ain't happening, right? I didn't see anything today. Again, I didn't see any plan. I didn't see any ambition. I didn't know what we were trying to do. I didn't know how we were trying to create chances. Nothing. I didn't get it. I didn't get what we were doing at all. And that's been a theme, hasn't it? But let's get rid of him, right? Let's get rid of him. And then who comes in? And whoever does come in, right, they might manage the hand that they've been dealt a bit better. But sooner or later, we're always going to arrive back at this point, the same point that they all do when the club and its lack of ambition catches up with us. And again, I get it. I know I'm saying all of this stuff. We don't know what the Lewis family, ENIC, are going to do going forwards. But if they do continue in the same way that they have done for the past 2 decades, right? If the leopard really doesn't change its spots, then it's going to basically be like this, forever, I guess? Maybe it gets even worse. It's just weird. Today was a shambles. It was just, do you know what I mean? It was one of those chaotic, weird moments where I'm like, how are we here in November? How are we here in November? You got the goalkeeper jogging back into his goal. Fulham sort of almost farcically scoring into an open goal. And there's part of you thinking, like, because of the lack of urgency, right? For that second goal, I'll tell you this. When that second goal went in, like Charlotte and I were watching it, like, is that a goal? Does that what are we missing something here? There was such a lack of urgency from Tottenham's players to prevent that goal from happening that as it sort of looped into the back of the net, I wasn't even like immediately gutted because we were both thinking like, what's happened here? Like, is that a goal, or have they just kicked it because the whistle's gone and we've not heard it, or what? Oh no, they're 2-0 up. All right. That's a bit weird. So none of our players seemingly care anymore. The weird sort of conflab they had at halftime when, they got booed and then they all met on the centre circle. Ooh, you're hard, They'll chew you if you play a bit better, lads. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just arriving at that age, but I kind of, I think there's so much pearl clutching about booing. Don't get abusive, but booing's not abuse, right? Booing is a crowd exercising like one of the few forms of power that they have. If they're not happy with something, they've got every right to say, do I think it's the most constructive way to get a team playing well for you? No, I don't. And I'm not going to pretend that I think it is. Like, I don't, it's probably a bit self-defeatist in the respect that, like, if you're unhappy that the team aren't playing very well, booing said team probably isn't going to make them play much better. But do I deny people the right to do it? Do I think they are, whatever, stupid or morons or all this type of stuff that pundits or whatever will flippantly say? Pundits who are mostly all ex-footballers anyway, millionaires sitting around defending other millionaires. I don't know, man. I can't make sense of this. How this how this happens to us. Like, somebody like Thomas Frank, sure, right? He's not. I wasn't blown away with the appointment. I'm sure you can remember this. I've said this all season, but I wasn't against it. Let's put it that way, right? I was like, yeah, I mean, not in love with the guy. Don't really love what he's done at Brentford, but yeah, whatever. Raise our floor, make us more solid, blah, 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 all that type of thing. I just don't get, how with this club, even somebody as milquetoast as Thomas Frank can come in and it still seems to plummet everything into chaos. Why is it that he can't just come in and we're all right? Do you know what I mean? Like, solid enough. If it's boring, if it's murder ball football, right? But you're winning most games at home 1-0 or drawing against the big teams, going away from home, winning 50% of those against the crap teams. Are we the crap teams? Winning against the crap teams, drawing against some of the good ones and losing against some of the good ones. You could get it, right? And you'd be like, right, whatever, keep this guy in charge for a while. He's not going to be here forever, but this is maybe a necessary evil. We stabilize for a bit, whatever. He's not even doing that. Like, do you know what I mean? The pen-pushing tax attorney manager, no offense to tax attorneys out there, apologies, but still, do you know what I'm saying? Like, the boring pen pusher manager is still managing to come in here and it's still chaos. It's still weird team meetings at half time, right? It's still Fulham who've got 1 point away from home all season to this point, going 2-0 up within a few minutes. What? I just don't get it. I don't get it. We got some good players in there, man. The thing is, were it not for Mickey van der Ven, like, who put in another Ledley King challenge today, right? He's done 2 of those now that we have held Ledley. I'm not saying this. I love Ledley. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that, but we've held Ledley up for however many years, right? For that tackle on Arjen Robben. Mickey van der Ven's done a couple of those in the past few weeks, right? Mickey van der Ven pretty much today has stopped us from conceding maybe 4 goals. We could have been 4-0 down at points in this game. Against Fulham. Like, with all due, they've just done us at home. I get it. But they're useless. Like, they are a bobbins rank average team. managed by a Bobbins rank average gaffer. I know a lot of people want Marco Silva. He's somebody I've never wanted anywhere near the club. He's somebody that's clearly got a ceiling, whatever. But would he be doing any worse than what Thomas Frank is right now? I don't know. Shows what I know. I didn't want Jack Grealish. I thought Jack Grealish would be a spent force, and he's been pretty brilliant for Everton, hasn't he? I don't know what I want or expect. Well, I do know what I want from this team. So let's just put it, I don't know what I expect from this team. I don't know what I feel. I can't ascertain what par should be for this club right now. Not overall. I'm not talking about the old grand old club, grand old team to play for. I'm not talking about that. Like, don't get your backs up. I'm just saying, right now, this squad, this team, these owners, whatever, I just don't know what is par for us, where things should lie. And the warped expectations, I say that in air quotes, of the fans is a direct result of the club that is sold to us. And the club that is sold to the fans is a blue chip AAA club that's going to challenge for titles and all this type of stuff. But the reality is we don't do that, do we? And like in any other industry, this stuff gets found out. Remember that Salt Bay lad, right? Opening up those steak restaurants, all those ridiculous like bills and stuff that he'd keep charging, right? The amount, I can't even remember what his restaurant was called, but he opened them up all across the world, charged people the most expensive prices for like a steak dinner. And the reviews would constantly be like, this is bang average food. This is bang average steak. And now he's going out of business. You know, any other industry, this stuff gets called out and people vote with their feet. But we can't do that. We can't do that with football. So we get charged as much as them lot down the road. Our fans get charged just as much to go and watch pretty much the starkest opposite possible. A team that has for so long had so little focus on actually achieving stuff on the pitch. They put more energy. Enoch and Daniel Levy have put more energy into excusing why they can't compete, as opposed to just trying to compete, as opposed to just trying to think of solutions to compete. Other than, let's bring in Antonio Conte, but give him no budget and the players that he has available to him. He did still have Kane and Son available to him, you know. It's worth remembering that. But yeah. Beatplate says, thanks always, Jack, for the debrief. Get Frank gone tonight. A 15-minute burst of energy doesn't change anything. Utterly shambolic. A few people saying they do want the pod, so thank you very much. Stube55, thanks in advance for the therapy. Thank you, mate. Grammar Smosh says, maybe PSG aren't very good. Yeah. That is definitely a question to ask, and that also has to make you worry on another level about the Champions League and all that, but I'm not going to go on about Arsenal today and what they're going to do. Owen Lawrence, 2 games left, Newcastle and Brentford, and then he gets the chop, I predict. Roberto, when's Newcastle? Tuesday, isn't it? Yeah. Roberto Campy's got to go right. Max Truarvis says, looking forward to this, Jack. Thank you, mate. Shopping at Kmarks says, disgraceful performance. The Nadir. I'm fed up with Porro in particular for some reason after this game. Well, it was Porro that Was it Porro that lost the ball for was it their first goal? Porro got mugged off, and I don't know, something like that. The thing is, right, the thing about Porro is, and I'm a fan of Pedro Porro, and I've said at many points I've sort of felt he's been one of our best, if not our best players this season. I do also feel like he is a player that would not be tolerated at City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, probably even Newcastle. And as much as he has some positive attributes, and I think it is good that we as a fan base cling on to our players' positive attributes, we do often tend to give them like a massive pass for the bits of their game that aren't very good. And I don't know how healthy it is that we're always like, well, Pedro Porro can't defend, but, he sure can whip in a mean ball from time to time, What are we doing at the end of the day? We're not sat there in the boardroom saying, right, well, let's find a new player. But when I just think about Spurs and I think about the fact that we often fall short against the so-called top teams, right, is because more often than not, we just have a squad of players that isn't quite as good as theirs. I like Pedro Porro, but I also look at him and think, does he start for many of the teams above us in the pecking order? Probably not. And I think we've got a lot of players like that. And that's fine. Like, that doesn't change overnight. But it does need to change if we want to challenge. That's just kind of how I feel about it. But Malone says, what did we do to deserve this pain? As I've said on here, we are in fact in hell. This is where we've been sent. If you believe in karmic retribution, you have to consider what you've done in this life or a previous one to be going through this, whilst Mr. DT is having a pretty good time, isn't he, right now? I am Ben Austin says, bring back the international break. I thought you were about to say bring back the death penalty there, Ben. It's not this type. It's not that type of stream here, mate. Flicks and Tricks says he's done, isn't he? Feels that way a bit, mate. Feels that way, don't it? Alan Leslie says we need this because that was atrocious. He's gone. I do wonder if he's gone. There was nothing to Spurs in that game. There was nothing there. James Reed says, is relegation possible? Yeah. I don't see where the next win comes from. Mr. D Shack says, editors. What is it on? Did it come on? People are fragile things you should know by now. Be careful what you put them through. Indeed, Tottenham Hotspur. Big Y says, crazy to think it was only 6 months ago. We had our best night in decades. Haven't felt this negative about Tottenham in my life. The Tim Sherwood point wasn't that fun. End stage Conte wasn't that fun. End stage Mourinho wasn't that fun. End stage Ange wasn't that fun other than the Europa League. I'm not telling you how you should feel, mate, about the club. I'm just saying I do feel like there have been quite a few times in recent years that have not been very good at all. Deuces Wild says, so it's a defensive solidity that Polina brings to the brings in the room with us right now. Kursky says, I have no feelings, just completely numb, to be honest. Yeah. Darren223, as a wise man once said, it's time to go. Andy Perry, hello, mate. He has to go, Jack. He's out of his depth. The game plan is so basic. It's even more basic than the last one. What is the game plan, Andy? That's the question. What is the game plan? It's the Dele Alli thing, isn't it? From All or Nothing. Just defending and smashing long passes or whatever it is. Smashing long passes and effing defending. Okay, Eupator says, nah, mate, we should get Iraola in. I'm not... Yeah, he might be good, man, but I'm just not convinced. I don't know if I want another guy that's got to have a step up in the Premier League. It might be John McKenzie. Is it John McKenzie? I'm not trying to mug him off. The athletics, sort of tactics guy, mates of Nathan and Kish and everyone. I think it was him that was talking about the fallacy of like punching up managers in the Premier League and how it doesn't really work. And I think the example that was noted was Pochettino is pretty much one of the only times it's ever really worked out. I just sort of feel like Iraola comes in here and look what happened to them today anyway, you know? I just sort of feel like he comes in here and we'll be in a similar position to this in no time at all. I want to see Spurs I want to see Spurs start to like get a bit smarter. I want to see Spurs start to develop a sort of plan. I want us to take a risk on a manager from outside the Premier League. You know? Works out for so many other teams all the time. Why don't we ever do that? Basically, all of our appointments come from within the Premier League or managers who have managed in the Premier League at some point. Just take a second to think about that because we do. Whereas there are plenty of teams that don't do that and are pretty successful. People still keep going on about this Italiano geezer at the moment. That's not me. It's not me been doing some like things like Vincenzo Italiano, Vince English. It's not me doing some Brexit. Like that's apparently what's got a lot of people like him. Delpha Chronic says, Frank Kilder's revokes 3 subs in one go. We got on top. We got a goal. And he makes 3 in one go. It killed our momentum. Bentancur slowed us down. Yeah. And Xavi couldn't keep the ball. Jake M95 says, having Maddison and Decky won't change a thing when his tactic is get the ball to Porro and spam crosses into the box over and over again. Bad Nasha says, I can't see this improving. Flicks and Tricks also says, Danso is the worst passer in the entire side, and he was starting the majority of our attacks. It's no wonder we can't move the ball forwards. I do have to say, because I quite like Big Dance, and I didn't really want to single him out and dig him out, but I did think when we were watching today, you know, I just don't know quite how good he is. He's a good, like, sub option to drop in when we need somebody, but starting games and stuff, yeah. Brian Park says, my hot take is Polina should never, ever start for us. Good player for teams like Fulham, but not our level. It's funny, isn't it? That was almost like seen as like heathen speech a few weeks ago. And there were a few people that put their head above the parapet and said, don't think this guy is the one, and got dug out for it. And now quite a few people are like tails between their legs, like, yeah, maybe he's not actually that good for us. KF6783 says, sack him, he's a poor man's Nuno. Alan Leslie's also said, we've shipped 11 goals this week. Jesus. Mr. D Shack, the body language of the players is just appalling. Yeah. Zeros and Ones says, Vicario isn't our Ramsdale. He's our Leno. I mean, even Leno was better than him tonight, mate. You know? Just Keith says, I honestly don't see any manager getting a tune out of this lot. Utter rubbish. Jeremy Kinsella, God, I wish I cared less. I'd love to care less, but I can't. This kills me. Tottenham is everything. It hurts. Bless you. Thank you, Jeremy. Bless you too, mate. This is, yeah. Bad Nasher also says this is going to get worse. Cobb says, give it Mason for the season. I think West Brom would happily give him to us. He's not been doing a good job there. He's not been endearing himself to the fans there. 200 napkins, Kulu or Solanke aren't getting back fit anytime soon. I don't think Frank will ever have the opportunity to prove that he would improve results with them back. Yeah. Kugo says, what's the point? What makes you think the football will change or that he's developing a progressive ideology? Yep, fair point. Mr. Dishak also says, we'll get torn apart at Newcastle, probably be the end of it, which will at least save the FA Cup and Champions League knockouts. I mean, we haven't made the Champions League knockouts yet, mate. Not by a long shot. John Courtney, get Ange back. You're right, mate. Pip Walker, dreadful manager, dreadful players. It's hilarious that they won a Europa League. God, Jesus, man. Jodas, Redknapp interim, then Poch after World Cup. I mean, Redknapp's, I'm not trying to be ageist, but he's too old now and he's been out of the game for ages and he just does adverts and stuff now, right? It's not, you know, it's not a thing, is it? Mr. Dishak also says, the scary thing is the clowns Vinay, Langer and Fabio led the meticulous recruitment process to get Frank. Yeah. Oh, here we go then. Blue Bly has put their head above the parapet. It's going to take time, and unless Pep wants a change of address, beg your pardon, we should be very patient with Thomas. Anyone care to reply? You know, I don't like overly disagree with that. I don't think that's like a horrible point to make or anything. But you know, Isla Lillywhite has to go, bloods. Kel's Play says, couldn't get over how poor your lot were following the goal. We were fighting for our lives and we really weren't put under the cosh. I'm guessing Kel's Plays as a Fulham fan. And yeah, fine, fair enough. Good value for the win, mate, really. And that's kind of the mad thing, isn't it? It's one of the mad things where, like, I'm not sat here really like raging about Fulham. I don't feel we've been cheated in any way. They won fair and square. They were better than us. And these are the sort of games that hurt, aren't they? You know, like when you come out of a game and you kind of feel in some way like you've been a bit cheated and whatever, even if the scoreline doesn't fully reflect that. Sometimes games look a bit closer or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Games like tonight, I'm just like, we lost. Fulham were better than us. This was on us, like, you know. William Gardner, hello mate, says, effing hell, what cursed this club? Did Posh leave some rotten lemons in the janitor's cupboard? Um, yeah, hopefully he'll get rid of him again once we bring him back after the World Cup, you know? You reckon? Maybe? Isla Lillywhite, how did he not learn to tinker with a working formula once again and not play creative players against a Fulham side there for the taking? Supposedly built as a solid foundation to concede 11 in 3 games. Has to go. Nick Shipley says, no managers from the Prem, please, I'm guessing. Big Y also says, I think the Pochiers might have legitimately ruined this club. We might have been better off in the long term if we didn't have someone make us think we could actually be good. I do not like, you know, I wouldn't trade it for anything though, mate. That's the problem. You know, it was great. But I do know what you mean. I've spoken about this before. The whole toothpaste being out the tube thing, right? And I think that's the rod that's been made for the back of the ownership as much as anything. Is it's only human nature. Like when you've experienced that, you want to go back there, don't you? You know, you want to go back. You want to compete at that level. You want to get better than the level we reached. That's just natural, you know. And it's partly because we got to that level and didn't actually do anything. If under Pochettino we'd won a Premier League and a Champions League, I'm not saying right now we'd be like buzzing, but also we'd be like, at the end of the day, you'd be like, yeah, well, I've seen us win a Premier League and a Champions League. That's all right. It's the fact we like edged it with Pochettino, didn't we? We got so close and didn't quite do it, but also sort of shifted our baseline up a bit, really. Marjem says, why is there no heat on Venkateshan? What if he has his Tim Pot view of us from his time at Arsenal and feeds the cowardly approach from Frank? Yeah, who knows, mate? But I don't even know what it is that he does, to be honest with you. We sort of always have these ideas, don't we? Oh, you know, flags or a TIFO or something, and that's Venkateshan because he's in touch with the fans and everything. But, you know, is he doing that? I don't know. Dave N. Garrett says 19 crosses in the first half and none found a Spurs player. Panic at the bad. Vicario dumb as usual. No control in midfield. A shambles. David Thompson says, I find it almost impossible to watch us right now. I just can't concentrate or stay engaged when we offer absolutely nothing game after game. Do you know what I mean? Adam James Harris says, poor squad with a negative manager. Wiz Kadira, I am dead inside. Bloody hell. London Easter says something odd going on at the club. Yeah, maybe. It does feel a bit weird, doesn't it? Yeah, Isla Lee White says, Frank's not taking risks is a risk is the new version of Nuno's we're going to make you proud. I mean, it literally is, isn't it? Rob Stone says, I was saying boo Ergval. Delpha Chronic. Frank has just had a pop at the fans. That always ends well. Right, let's have a look. What has Thomas Frank said about the fans? Let's find out. Thomas Frank. Let's find out. Ooh. Thomas Frank isn't happy with the boos aimed at Guillermo Vicario during the game after his mistake. That's not a true Spurs fan, Frank said. If that's, I mean, maybe that's, oh, hang on. blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, this isn't. It must have been in the post-match presser or something like that. This was just the comments from Sky Sports. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think many people are going to be rushing out to buy his book at the moment. Put it that way. It's probably not the best time for him to have released. It's a book again, isn't it? That's when it all went to pot under Pochettino, when he brought out that bloody book. Darren Fearon says, do you think our players are overrated? Because I saw us make these same mistakes under different managers. I mean, I don't know, mate. Like, I'm not, as I was sort of saying at the top, you know, maybe a few of our players are a bit overrated. Like, it depends. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe they're perfectly good for where we're at right now, but I guess the prism that we're trying to view these players through, I keep talking about viewing things through a prism. Let's talk of view just through the prism of blah. Just talk normally. Just trying to act like you're so clever. You're not. Some pleb. Just some pleb blithering on about football after games. Well, if we consider the context of this, the prism of blah, shut up, you pompous twat. Sorry, mate. Do I think our players are good or not? I mean, I think they're all right. Do I think many of them get into clubs that are above us in the pecking order? Nah, not really. And that's probably partly the problem. We need a massive squad overhaul. I know people don't like it when you say stuff like that. We've got loads of good players. They're much better than what the manager's getting out of them right now. Yeah, I agree. I do think they are. But, you know, I don't really quiver with fear thinking about losing really any of them. Mickey van der Ven, I wouldn't like to lose. You know. Jake M says, give it to Zerbi and watch everything burn. No, thank you. Oh, God. Kells Plays also says, Marco Silva slander, no chance, he's a genius. If you are a Fulham fan, mate, then fine. He's doing great for you. I'm not really having him, to be honest. Darren Ferren also says, hang on, where's it gone? It's just, oh God, it's just, okay. Daniel left us in a mess. There's no identity from the board. No sticking to a football identity. It reflects on the squad. We have players from different style managers. Yep, it does. Listen, Grove says Sessegnon giving it the big one at the end. Was he? That's a bit of a shame. I feel like we were always pretty decent to him. The fans are always sort of good to him, supported him, I felt, but whatever. Melton says, where do we go from here? Well, the Championship seems to be the obvious answer. Tequila Shark New Jersey says, Arsenal are going to win the lot and we look like a dropped rifle. That's a good expression, that way. I've not heard that one. It's like dog's dinner and all that type of thing, isn't it? But it's quite good, that. Frank's approach is slower than cliff erosion. To dare is too risky. Shocking. Porro was the only guy to try and create something. Bad Natural says, I can't see Frank coming back from this. Simply says, it would be so Spursy if Thomas Frank gets sacked after losing to Brentford at home next week. Alex Poyner, we're just cursed. First goal, horrible deflection of Udogie. Second goal, moment of madness from Vicario. Then Udogie slips as he goes to put his foot to stop the shot. Mr. D. Shackles says Vicario fronted up for an interview. Fair play. Yeah, we'll see that. Jeremy Kinsella says match of the day just started. God, yeah, 5 to 11. I should be in bed by now. I should be looking after my baby, really. That's been a bit of a crap dad tonight. She's not like Charlotte's with her. I haven't like left I haven't like left her downstairs or something like that. But I don't know. Doug Drinkwater, this cycle will continue. Lack of football now, some penny pinching in the boardroom equals inadequate managers, generally unable to get the most out of limited cheap squads, bar one fluke in Poch. David Pybo says, I'd manage this team better than this clown. From kickoff, no intensity, lack of care on the ball. It's a joke. The manager is responsible. Stoke FC, Steve Pulis FC, sick of this crap. Fulham set up to force Danso to start possession. Lots of people just not very happy at all with Thomas Frank. It's all just a lot of belly aching tonight, isn't it? Like I say, at the top, I don't really know where we go from here. But, you know, Championship, like people say, maybe. I hope not. I really wouldn't fancy. Can you imagine getting relegated the year they win the treble or whatever it is? I actually think I would. I think that would be the sign to just stop. I don't care if it makes me a coward or something. Just go and watch a local non-league side or something like that, and just not care about it as much. There's a reason I love watching the darts, because it's fun sport and it's quite fun to watch, you know. And I just don't care that much. It's all right when Luke Littler wins, isn't it? Yeah, I mean that was quite nice for a time, especially when he was on the up. You could watch his sort of ascension. But he didn't really care that much. Didn't care if he won or not. And that's the thing about the darts, you can just slap it on and not really care. And I think with a lot of non-league football, my problem with it has always been, because I've gone to watch quite a few games down the years at different non-league sides, and I always quite enjoy it. You know, I always quite enjoy the experience. It's nice. I like the smell of the grass and the proximity to the players and the pitch and how everything's a bit more ramshackle, all that type of thing. Right? I like that. You know, the less polished veneer of like the Premier League and all that type of thing. The problem is that football also, though, is a massively emotional game, right? It's, you know, it's the grand space opera that is football. You have to care about it. And when I go and just check into a non-league side for the day, I don't care about them. You know, it doesn't muster anything in my soul like this Christ-forsaken football team does. You just can't. There's no way to stop. There's no way to give it up. And, you know, I don't know if I would really want to, but it does feel that way sometimes, doesn't it? I don't know. It's a very weird one. If you want to listen to all the pods ad-free, patreon.com/RTRpods. I do appreciate it. Lots of people have been commenting on Spotify and stuff, so that's really good. Please keep doing that. I appreciate it. Please leave more. If you do listen on Spotify, just drop it 5 stars. I really would appreciate it. If you're watching the stream right now, give us a like, leave a comment, all that type of stuff. Subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Ratings, reviews, all that type of thing. I have a pod Monday, and then probably another one Thursday. So, yeah, we'll see what happens from there. But, yeah. Try and have a nice evening, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. What a bizarre football team we support, really. But much love, everyone.